Cool, let's move on to CycleGAN then. So CycleGAN's a little bit trickier, right? Because you need folders of images. So I'll just show you sort of what I have. So in me doing this work, like I was like, cool, I'm gonna pull down some images. So I have an image folder. You can see how terribly like unorganized I am here. Names, I want repos. So I have a folder of birds that I just pulled from like a library off the internet. You'll notice that they're probably all slightly different image widths or sizes or whatever. And then I have a folder of, well, these are already squared. I don't know where the other ones are, but I have a folder of flowers. So if I need to make these the same size, I use this tool I have, which is called dataset-tools. And the way you use this is, so you would download this, and I'll write recipes so people can do this, but you download this to your hard drive, and then what you need to do is, let's open this in a new terminal. You need to so your desktop is also like one of these servers where you can like move around in it. So I want to move into, so I'm changing directories into that folder. And now, so the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I can resize these images, right? So I have all these images. I think they're pretty big. Yeah, so this image is 3,800 pixels by 5,800 pixels. So that's like really big. I know that for CycleGAN, it's generally good if they're about 512. So I need a way to resize 1,000 images to 512. And one way to do it is to go into Photoshop and open every single image. It's going to take you a couple hours to resize every one of those. So what this process does is it allows you to do it all really quickly. So really quickly, the way this works is, and this is documented on GitHub as well. So let me just open up the page here. Oh boy, remind me later. So the way that the basic way to use this is to just pass in this command, and you want to give it an input path and an output path. There's some options here. So what I want to do is I want to scale this thing to 512, right? So if I read through these options, my guess is I'm going to use max size. So you will pass in max size, and I'll pass in, it's defaulted to 512, but I'll do that anyway, just to sort of show how it works. So let me just grab this command. And this is usually how I do this stuff, is I just copy and paste the basic command. I paste it in, and then I go in and edit the actual arguments I need. So path to input is, so remember, I'm already as far as the machine knows, I'm in this dataset-tools path. So what I need to send it is, I need to send an input and then birds of Australia. So what that is going to be is it's going to be /, which means the folder I'm in, input, and then the actual title is birds Australia.
And it's case sensitive?
It is case sensitive, yep, so it has to match. So that's why I usually just copy and paste, because that way it always pulls in the path. And then the output folder, so where I want the images to go, I'm just going to choose output. So all I have to do then here is the folder I'm in and then output. Then I pass it max size, and that's 512. So when I run that, it's going to be really slow. I'm actually going to stop this process because this is going to take 20 minutes to do. But basically now it's just running through every one of those images, and because they're huge, it takes a lot of time to make it smaller. But this will run through every image in that folder, and it'll spit out 512. So when I'm going to quit this command. So now when I go to output, oh, interesting, output 512. Oh, I know why. Okay. So the mistake I made here is that these require the last slashes. So you have to do output / and birds of Australia /. And if I run this again for a couple, so this folder ended up getting messy. But basically inside of output, now there's a folder called 512, and inside of one of them is my birds, and if you look here, it's now 321 by 512. So if I let that run, it would have just run through all of them. The next thing that I would recommend doing is like then taking that folder and bringing it back into input. So like here I have birds oust 1012. So this was one that I ran, and like it ran on 1012. So the next thing that I would want to do, because I want them to be square, right? Because that's like generally like what works best with these systems, is I would then take this path and I would put this path into input. Like I'm sort of just cycling through these things. You could, if you knew how to write this code, you could chain them together. But I think it's a little bit easier just for everyone to understand like this process. Whoops. So I want /input/ output folder. That one's fine. Max size. So let's just keep it 1024 for now. And then what is also here is a thing called process type. And so if you go back to the GitHub page, you'll see that your options here are resize, which is the default. So that means just take whatever image exists and resize it. In an option called square, which sounds like it might be what I want. Crop to square. So I might have to figure out what the difference between square and crop to square is. And then a couple other ones that I won't talk about yet. So crop to square takes an image and crops into it so it's a square image. The square command just expands the borders. So that's the one I want because I don't want to crop into that bird. I want to keep the bird as whole as possible. So I'm going to pass in square.
It just makes the borders like
I'll show you what it does. I mean, it's a little gnarly, but it works. So I'm going to run this. That runs much faster because, again, those images are now only 1024. They're not huge. I'm just going to quit this, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So now inside of output, there is a folder called square 1024. And if you look in here, like literally all it did is took the edges and it just like flipped them out. And you'll see, like, it kind of works. It's like a little ugly at the sides. I could add another option. There's an option in OpenCV where you can actually flip, where you can do mirrored sides, and that might give me a cleaner edge, but it also might give me like birds on the sides that I might not want. So you kind of have to like decide what you want to do. Another option is I could like now open all 10,000 of these images and like paint this color, or like you could give it a border color. It just depends on how much work you want to do to like make these perfect. Solid color? You could make it a solid color, not in my program, but I could add that feature and then we could do it. So yeah, it just kind of depends. Like I just find that this works well. It's like not perfect, but it works. Cool. So now I have one folder of images that are now sized and squared. So I then do that for the second folder. So I do the same process: resize it, square it. Now I've got two folders. So the process to actually having this work now is that I need to go into, so this is using a different library. This is PyTorch, CycleGAN, and Pix2Pix. That's the folder that needs to be. So inside of there, this actually looks pretty similar to Pix2Pix HD because they're actually built off the same, they're built from the same library, but for whatever reason, like I just want to use this one for this. It's a little bit easier to understand. So inside of datasets, I make a new folder. So I made a folder called Birds to Plants 512. I think Birds to Plants is 1024, but it turns out this library doesn't really work well with like big images. So I just resized them all down to 512, and then inside of this folder, you have trainA, trainB, test A, and test B. For now, let's ignore the test folders, but trainA and trainB is like, so think about it this way: A to B or B to A. That's sort of the process we're looking at. So A is going to be birds and B is going to be plants. And inside of these folders, they have to be named this way, otherwise the process won't work. So it has to be trainA, capital A, and then train, capital B. But inside of each of those are just all of those folders, right? So it's birds, and then in here we got plants.
And we have to extract a set for test.
So if you were to try to do this as a scientist, you would like extract 20% out as your test, keep 80% as your train, because we're doing art, it doesn't matter. So I just literally I just duplicate these folders. So I literally like made test A and test B like the exact same folders. So yeah, if you wanted to be like more scientific about it, like you would split stuff out. It doesn't matter. It's basically the answer for you. Okay, so now I need to log into this box. So now I've uploaded all my images. We're good to go. So I've listed all this in the deck. So like if you need to reread this, like it should be all there. Also, this is being recorded, so you all have the video. So step 2 is I need to train the model. So first I need to log into my machine, which is SSH3. So SSH Paperspace. I actually don't remember the public IP address for this one, so I'm gonna log in, check it out. That's me for the password. So now logged in. So what I want to do is I want to do cd into this PyTorch library. I'm now inside of there. So the command I need to run is this command. Now, we know what no-hut means. We know we're going to be training this for a while, so we know that we need to like pass the no-hut command. Turns out the example I was going to give was flowers and faces. I actually didn't do that, so we're going to do birds to plants. Again, the name, so this operates on the same principles as Pix2Pix HD. We need to give it a name so it creates a folder with that project. And then because this library can do either CycleGAN or Pix2Pix, you have to tell it what model you want to run. And you want to run CycleGAN because these are two completely different folders where we like don't have a one-to-one comparison for them. So I need to rename this to Birds to Plants 512. And I'm going to change this name to Birds to Plants 512. Because I've already run this, I'm going to add the v2 just so like I don't overwrite anything. Hit enter. You have no idea. It's now gone in the black box. The same thing applies where like maybe keep an eye on it, check on it. I'll show you that this model actually runs a little bit slower. Again, because it's got those 4 different models, so it might take 15 minutes per epoch or whatever. But again, this isn't going to show. You can run it in the background. Depending on the type of thing you're converting to, it can take a little bit longer to run or train than other things, and I'm going to show you an example of like what I mean by that. But basically, we're training now. Like, imagine that we stepped away for 8 hours. We come back to it, and what we'll see is we have another folder called checkpoints. Inside of that folder, I'm just going to delete this one because it isn't doing anything. We have a folder called Birds to Plants. This is v2. So inside here, it's the exact same thing, right? Here's a bunch of paths. You'll see these paths are much smaller. That's probably because the model itself is, the images themselves are smaller. I think also because CycleGAN tends to be smaller than Pix2Pix because what it's trained on is literally just the translation between 2 images rather than trying to generate an image from scratch. So here, like I ran this for, I think this is actually still running, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I've run this for 315 epochs. Again, there's more images in there, so it takes a bit longer for it to process all those. When this is ready, actually, maybe I'll just stop this now and I'll just run it right now. So the same thing works if I want to kill a command here. So you'll see this model is much smaller, right? So the other one was taking up 11 gigabytes. This one's taking up about 4. Again, probably a smaller, it's a smaller network, and it's also a smaller image. Just make sure I killed it. Yep. Cool. So now I'm just going to train on that set of images. So all you do for this is you do Python tests. So remember, in this case, I duplicated those train images and then called them test capital A and test capital B. All that says is like now they're test images. Like to the machine, it doesn't know the difference, but like I now know that I've created a test folder. And what we're going to do then is we're going to put this command in. We're going to say datasets, and the command is, I believe, let me just double check, make sure I get this right. The dataset is this. And the name of the project is So here's a case where I didn't really I wasn't consistently naming these, and this would probably make a mess later if I wanted to come back to this.
Do the files within the train and test directories have to have specific file names?
For CycleGAN, they don't.
They don't.
For pix to pix, the names actually have to match.
Should match, but it doesn't matter what they are.
No, it matters where they are too.
Okay.
Yeah, the pix to pix is is way more frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh? Date lists. Well, I might have broken this by stopping it. Let me run it on an older one. So I know if I run this on, let me just make sure. Let me see if this works. I think it will work. Birds to plants. That's interesting. Wait, did I say test or train? Test. Let me see if I pasted in the wrong command. Well, live demoing, it's always a journey, right? Oh, you know what? I bet you have to pass in the model name again. Yep. So you have to pass in the model name because, again, it doesn't know if it's doing pix to pix or CycleGAN. I'll update. Let me update this slide right now, actually. So that just generated a bunch of images. You're probably wondering, what exactly did that just generate? And I will show you. So now when you go to this folder, basically before it didn't have, there's a results folder. So inside results now, there's a birds to plants, test latest, this is again the latest epoch, and then you've got a folder of images, and you also see you've got an index.html file. So this particular model actually produces a web page that you can then look at these, and it's a little bit easier to understand when you look at it this way. So I'm just going to drag that down. I think it's this one here. So if I open this, and I open this in a web browser, it's going to take a little bit to load because there's a lot of images. So we have birds to plants, and we have plants to birds.
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay, these don't look good, but wait till you see a few of these others down here.
Whoa.
Look at this one.
Wow.
So you can almost see that it's starting to create birds, right?
Yeah.
Or I found a couple in here that were so good that I this one's pretty cool. You can see some birds starting to generate there. But look at also what's happening with the flowers. It's generating flowers around the bird. So when I first started looking at these, I was like, oh shit, it's just gonna colorize the thing. But after another 12 hours of training, it started to generate it knew to generate flowers around in a certain shape. If you actually look through this model, you'll see some really interesting things. Since most of the birds are painted on blue, it starts to get a blue hue around it. What I generally think it did is it converted, at least when it goes backwards, it converts the actual flower buds to birds, and you'll see the centers are missing. So it's trying to build a bird around it. It does some really funky stuff, and this is why I think this model is really interesting.
That's cool.
Look at this one. You can almost see it's like a bird in a nest. Look at this one's really cool because it literally just obliterate the flowers, and the birds are trying to fit into other spaces. So this was trained on 200 epochs. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm training it on a longer run, so it's training on 400 epochs. So I'm trying to see if the 400 epochs, it actually isn't finished now. But actually, let's do this. So I want this, but I want name to be underscore v2. I think because I didn't have the model, it wasn't working before. Oh, you know the other thing I have to do is, hold on one second. What did I have to pass in? I think scale size. Where's the load size? Let me see here. I think it's load size. Let me just see. Nope. Expected one argument of 512.
Rally out. Nothing, carry on. Everything's fine.
I have mine from, it's only beer from the last time I did that.
No such thing as a free beer, huh?
I feel like the internet might be a little slow in here today. Or I'm just having problems connecting. Well, so okay, so another way you can do this, let me just go in through here. See if this works faster. So this is, I'm actually now logged into my machine. So if I go in here and I go to, whoa. That's weird. Let me just make sure I didn't like crash my machine. Cool, I don't have any idea what that is. Let's say this. Let's go here and let's see results. Where's the plants v2? Test latest. And let's just open this in Firefox. Is that gonna work? Yeah, there we go. Ah, okay, so the weird thing is this cropped them. Okay, let me run this again, but let me actually find the right command to run this. So the nice thing about this particular project is like it's pretty well documented how to do certain things. So let me see. There's a folder of options here. Okay, so this is what I want. I want preprocess scale width and load size. So I just ran it again because I didn't want the image to be cropped anymore, and I think this command will fix that cropping issue.
Do you have to have the same number of images in each folder?
For CycleGAN, you don't. For pix to pix, they need to be the exact
Precisely,
same,
yeah.
and they actually have to be the same name. Yeah, it's pretty annoying. Okay. So I just reran that with hopefully without the cropping, but let's see what we get here. So I want to go back into this guy. So let me just refresh this page and see if I get something new. Yeah, cool. So this has now been run on, there's like window inside a window inside a window. This is like little bit harder to see. But this has been run for a number of more paths, or like a number of more epochs. So I'm just gonna look through and see if it actually like gives me better results. It might not actually give you. What's that?
The red ones look like parrots.
Yeah, can I convert all the birds to parrots? So this might, since it's only run a little bit longer than the other one, it might not actually produce better results. It also like might just not produce better results. Which one?
The fake. Oh well, yeah, that one.
That one, yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like this one, you can kind of tell it's like trying to turn that flower into a bird, and it's just like a weird bird mash, right? So again, like I'll probably run this for another couple hours and just sort of see if I get better results. Like, oh, this is the image I really love. Where it's like it turned all those, like those are, you can almost see an eye there. Like I haven't, on the other model it actually like almost gave things tails too. So like the other thing about training is like sometimes it's a little bit iffy whether you get better results or not. Like because the way that it trains is like, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but like there's a thing called gradient descent. It like it basically tries to find the best result and it doesn't always find it. So sometimes you get bad results, which is a little weird and a little annoying, especially if you like drop $20 on training one of these things. So maybe the other one's actually better.
Like how much money did you spend on doing all these?
This is probably on day 2, so I don't know, what is it? Like 36 hours times 78 cents, so $30.
Oh.
I mean, not the end of the world, but like, you know, the other cool thing is like I now can produce thousands upon thousands of images with these things, right? Like the other thing I can do is like, since I have these test folders, let's go back here. If it lets me connect. Apparently my FTP is having some issues right now. I lost the connection to my cloud machine. But basically you have those test A and test B folders. You could stick other bird images in those test folders and see if it produces a different kind of output. The further away you get from those training images, the more likely it is to like not really work. But it might be possible to like take a photo of a bird and see what it does with it. You never really know. So like I've now trained this thing and I could try a bunch of different things on it. Or I could try like I could try like in Photoshop stitching a couple of those birds together and seeing what it produces on the output. Like I basically have a model now to train anything on it, and I could do that. So that's kind of the nice thing is like I spent $30, but like I could maybe make thousands. Like I could technically make thousands of images out of it. Maybe I can sell those back for $30. I don't know, whatever. Doesn't have to be purely capitalist, but like you get a model where you could then do many things with it.